Welcome back to episode number 5 of Let's Be Real. We talk about real life issues and real life experiences. Shout out to my guys for holding it down last week. I was missing the action. I'm Sling.
Don C here.
I'm Jabari Wells, and as always, I'm introducing another esteemed guest. He serves in the United States military. He's a close friend of mine. He's a specialist, Austin Pagano. Austin, how's everything?
Good.
You guys hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, all right, solid. Sorry, boys.
Welcome to the podcast, sir.
Yeah, the barracks internet's kind of here, man. Sorry.
It's
All right,
all right.
Again, we're talking about Trump today and the election stuff. We're probably gonna get into some voting stuff, but first question: why Trump? What made Austin vote Trump?
All right. So, as I previously stated, so during the whole 2016, presidential election, we saw that the Democratic Party was focusing too much on minority issues such as LGBTQ. And I'm not saying that they're not important because they are, but we saw an influx of the Democratic candidates kind of just shifting their focus to less than 1% of the population, while you have, while you saw Republican candidates such as Trump speak out to that had a message that would kind of, reach everyone. So, for instance, like I stated, factory workers in the Midwest, right? They were facing their factories were facing closure. They were going to get laid off. These people have been working there for 20 years. They saw that they might be out of a job, and they panicked. So they looked to the presidential candidates, and they asked Hillary. They're like, hey, listen, like, we're looking at losing our jobs. We've been working here for 20 years. What can you do for us? And she literally, to their faces, was like, hey, listen, so you can go back to school and get a college degree in a STEM major, so science, technology, engineering, and math. And that's not the right answer. You don't tell somebody that's been working their whole life at one thing, but, oh, dude, just go back to school, you'll be fine. That's not a solid, that's not a concrete message. That's an overgeneralized statement, and it's a wrong statement. So Democratic Party focused too much on issues that didn't reach everybody. Also, at the same time, the Democratic Party would also play the blame game, right? So if you look at all their commercials and like their presidential commercials on the TV, they're like, oh, Trump has done all these bad things in his life. This is why he shouldn't be elected. No, the end commercial. Like that's not you're not telling me what you're going to do for me. You're just saying that he's bad. I get it. He's bad. He's not the best person. I get it. There's sometimes what happened?
No, I'm sorry. But I'm guessing that the commercials you've seen and the ads that you've seen were probably opponents.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
the Democratic, yeah.
So they're going to use propaganda to stir they're trying to stir votes, obviously. They're trying to get support, and they're trying to make him lose a fan base. So obviously they're not going to put Trump on the sunny side of anything if they're his opponent. They're trying to win.
Right. But there's a silver lining to that, though. You can do that. You can do that. You can say, like, if you and me are running, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, dude, like, Slink, he's a bad guy, right? But here's me. Here's everything that I can do for you. I'm Austin Pagano. I approve this message. You're still getting your message across, and you're still telling the American people what you plan on doing with it. You're not just labeling the dude as a bad guy.
So you don't think, go ahead. I'm sorry, Austin. Go ahead.
I just like they lack substance in their message. They try to like just use bad publicity against him, which they're trying to like you said, they're trying to stir votes to their side. But ultimately that backfired because they saw that like, oh, we also have to have what we're going to do in that message. It has to be 50-50. You can't just like go 100% like this guy's an asshole. I can curse in this, right? Sorry, my fault.
Yeah,
All right. I just want
to.
My fault. I can't curse without speaking. I can't speak without cursing. You can't label, like, you can't just go out and be like, oh, this guy's bad, right? Without having your silver lining, like, all right, this is what we're gonna do for you. We're gonna bring back.
May I ask you one thing? Because you say we can't go out and say, well, this guy is bad, but that's in this country. I'm speaking for the United States of America. That's what's going on daily, like. That's so where is the silver lining when you say it? Is it just when we talking politically, or are we using it when we talking about daily life in America?
So
because elections is only 4 times a year, but every day we got to wake up and go outside.
Right. So I would, try to split it up, right? You can be like, listen, this dude has done some bad things in his life, and like his policies that he's going for are not right. They're not right for America. Me, on the other hand, I plan on doing this, and this. Vote for me because I stand for the American people. Now that's a campaign commercial right there. That's how you do it.
Now that is the proper way. And I get what you're saying with saying what we shouldn't do, but we all know politics is ugly. Like we had a president serve both terms, and then we had another current president say he's not from the United States. Like, is that like that's what? So is there a silver lining there? Like we know politics is dirty. Like we know it's dirty. Like it's like battle rap. There's no.
Roasting everybody.
Yeah, it's like you trying to win. So I understand when you say that. You say you went and you gave the Democrats a chance to say, all right, what are you doing for me? But you got to think. What are when most like when I go I ask the same question. What is the Republican Party doing for me?
Right.
But I also ask the same thing about the Democrats because I'm not just somebody that just says I'm a Democrat.
You're just like the rest of America. You're right in the middle. You're not extreme right. You're extreme left. You're just right in the middle. You just want to go live about your day.
So that's why so to say that. They didn't say nothing nice. That's expected. That's been every presidential election. Everybody has said something about the other. Right. Even Trump has said something.
Most definitely. He definitely does not listen. And when I say that he makes me cringe too, he makes me cringe. I can't watch this man on TV. I'm like, damn, what are you doing? But like I said, there has to be you can talk shit all you want. You can say all you.
That brings me to a point that I wanted to make is that how you just mentioned that sometimes even though you voted for him, it's like this man makes you cringe.
Yeah.
If that is the person that makes you cringe now, even though you gave him your vote X amount of years ago.
Well, so
do you think that he's delivered on everything that he promised to the person that was voting for him? Do you think that this is what I ran on and this is what I'm going to deliver? Do you think he actually has delivered on all of those opportunities?
I feel like he's been trying, but he's been getting stonewalled by the Dems in the Senate.
Do you think he has?
That's bottom line. He's like, has he delivered on everything? No. Would I like to see a little bit more? Yes. That's like with every presidency.
What else would you like to see more
of? More security, more obviously more. It would be nice, like I said, those minority rights or giving those minority individuals more of a platform to speak on. That would be, that's ideal for everybody. It's just
security of what exactly?
Well, you guys mentioned immigration. You guys mentioned my whole major is national security, geopolitics, right? I this is what my whole pretty much the last 7 years of my adult life has been towards. So if I can see more, and we'll touch more into this in the immigration section, but more vetting of people coming in, but also allowing those individual unalienable rights that we are given to prosper. And that's again another silver lining, as another catch-22 that we can get into as well.
So I got a question to your remark about him making you cringe also.
Yeah.
So none of us really knew going into 2016 the type of election it was going to be. Neither did we.
It was a bloodbath, let me tell you.
Exactly. Little did we know 4 years later, everything that has happened would happen. Now, for you saying that the guy who's running the country, you can't watch him live on TV, is that somebody that you would want in your house? Because I'm only asking you that is because I wouldn't support somebody that I can't watch on TV. It's not nothing to do with because everybody's against Trump. Me personally, he said enough to me to make me not like him.
Okay.
So that's what I'm asking. So how do you support somebody that you say you can't watch live?
When I say that he makes me cringe, it's only like very small times where I've been like, I watched him on TV where I was like, what are you doing, man? Like, it's just like, you're kind of like not using the right words. You know, we went from a president like Obama, who, and I'll say this right now, he was gifted at, he can articulate his words. Everybody remembers how Obama used to speak. Like, he would sit there and just like make you feel better about what's going on. Like, he had that gift, right? Sometimes when Trump speaks, it's like, I say sometimes, I'm talking like less than like maybe like 10% of the time that he gets on TV. Like sometimes I'm looking at him like, all right, man, like get to the point, arrive at the point. Like he's not, I would say he's not the best at public speaking. And that's something, if he does get reelected, that he would have to work on. And I said this already, but if the Democratic Party, I'm just going to go back to what I was saying before. If the Democratic Party repeats what they did for the 2016 election, I'm talking the identity politics, I'm talking just, not reaching out to the whole country or not putting substance in their campaign and their campaign speeches. Like if Joe Biden if all he does is attack Trump, we're going to see a repeat of 2016. I'm calling it now.
So if we know that both parties use essentially propaganda, you can call it, but they essentially use the media to control their own narrative to make sure they get the votes that they need. So if we understand that if we're going to play, we're going to play dirty, and if that both sides are doing it, what do you think is going to be the I don't know, the straw that breaks the camel back that allows it to be something new? Like, what's going to change that to where we're stop playing dirty to where we can actually go out here and run off of actual things that we believe in? Starting with you,
Don.
So honestly,
it's on Don.
What you just said? The end of it.
I was saying that if we know that politics is dirty, what is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back that says I'm no longer going to play that dirty game? I'm really officially going to run on things that I really naturally believe in. I'm going to fight for the places that I've been. I'm going to fight for the people that I love. When is it going to be strictly that and not a basis of I'm going to do whatever it takes to win a war?
Well, I mean, to start, like, I know, Austin, you said, like, the Republican or Donald Trump specifically said he was going to do things. You felt like he was going to do something for you. But, like, the biggest thing that I guess, like, what we experience and, like, what we see is, like, the president now, like, he's not, I mean, he's doing stuff for us, but, like, some of the things that he says on TV, like you said, he makes you cringe. And, like, some of the things that comments he might make, it doesn't make us feel like we're welcomed in the country. And it's like when somebody makes you feel that way, it's like we couldn't stand by that, period. Like, it don't matter if that person is doing something that's going to benefit us or not. So that's the big thing about when Slink is talking about how could you support him, that's like where we're going back to that. How could you support somebody that does certain things, that makes certain comments, even though like you might feel like he's doing something for you, but like at the same time, like before the country could move forward, like there are minority groups that you spoke about, like those groups, they're lagging behind, like basically like Brown and everybody, they're lagging behind. So it's like, how can we vote for somebody that is basically excluding that group? When you're talking about in America, like we got to include everybody. Sometimes when we hear Trump speak, we don't automatically feel like Trump is talking about us, like about focusing on white people mostly, and that's like the whole Make America Great Again thing. Like that time period that he's talking about is like a time period where minorities like were really badly treated. So it's like, how could somebody support a person that is referring to that era when it's not really unifying the entire country. And before we could even talk about like not having this the bad stuff part of politics with people talking bad to each other, it's like before we could even get there, like we have to at least come to some type of agreement and like have a conversation. But it's like when I think of a guy like Trump, like he just, some of the things he says, it might not be what he actually does day to day, but like the things that he says, it just really incites hate in a lot of different groups of people. So it's like I don't
can see that
people could support that.
So you're right. So like I said, like the Democratic Party kind of focused on those minority groups, even though like there's a greater majority that needs, help. But going with that, if Trump would go out right now and start, trying to advocate for these certain minority groups, I think that would be in the best case scenario for him. If he went out and publicly just started advocating for these minority groups that
but that wouldn't be from the heart.
And
that would just be
like,
that's not from the heart. That's from the vote.
Will you ever know that though?
I mean, if that's what he was going to run on the first time, he should have ran on it. Now that you're 4 years in, you see what you should have did and you see what you can't do. Now you have another strategy to go into the next election.
That's how you get reelected.
Huh?
That's how people stay elected. Honestly, that's how people get out to stay in office. They go and they troubleshoot.
Yeah,
like,
what
all right,
you're saying.
Where did we go wrong?
It's chess moves. Yeah, I understand that. But I'm saying, you was looking for somebody that appealed to you that can help you. That's not helping us just because you're going to come out and promise us that you're going to do things for the next 4 years that you're not going to do. You just want the vote.
Which is, I feel like Trump did that to like middle America.
Well, what president? What? I'm sorry, you cut out.
Nah, your screen is broken.
You cut out. I didn't hear you.
But nah, that's what I'm saying. Like, do you really like? There are some things that Trump said like that he was gonna do. Like one thing, for example, is like building the wall. Like, he hasn't done that. Like that was his biggest thing, and like he's made some of these promises to his voters, and like the main campaign, like his strongest points, I feel like one, for example, is building the wall. Like he hasn't done that. Like that was one of the things that's like there are definitely things that he said he would do, he has not done it.
Which most presidents do, and I'll give you that before you say it, But go ahead.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, what president has come through with everything that they have like proclaimed in their campaign? I can't think of a president in the last half a century that's like, hey, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do all of it, and they actually get it done. Going back to the wall, I feel like, again, that's just, he got stonewalled by Dems in the House and the Senate. It's to actually build a wall. I mean, all right, so you can look at like history, right? Like history tells you that walls don't work, right? But if you look, like, and there's a small part of the world that still has walls up, like Palestine and Israel. They have Israel has the walls up, and they keep radical Palestinian groups out. Like that type of shit works. But the only thing that comes down to it is money. They pay for it, and the house is not going to allocate all these funds to build a house. Build a wall if they don't agree with it, and that's why, again, he's getting stonewalled for that. So that's why I truly feel that he was not able to get that done. And do I think he's going to get it?
Sorry to cut you off. You were saying?
No, and say if he gets reelected, right? Do I think it's going to happen in 4 years? No, I honestly don't believe that. That's something that happens over a greater amount of time. That's not something you can just build in 4 years. That's something you need to build.
So going into the next election and this upcoming one, what are you looking for? Like, what are you looking for? Are you secure with Trump right now? Like, is your vote going to Trump right now, or are you open?
I would say I'm still pretty open on the subject. I don't see Biden. So, all right, let me back up. I see Biden not as a presidential figure, right? I see him as a pawn, right? Because he's senile, he's old, he's not really like, to me, he's not calling the shots. He's not saying like whatever is coming out of his mouth, they're not his words. I see it being somebody's pulling his string behind his back, whether it's the DNC, whether it's, you know, big corporations, like somebody's behind the scenes with Biden. That's what I don't
Do you
trust.
think somebody can say the same with Trump?
Biden gets elected.
Yeah.
I mean, with every politician, you can always see that somebody's trying to call the shots behind his back. You know,
Understand.
I would say maybe I would maybe say less with Trump, since he's, you know, self-funded. You know, like he paid for his own campaign. So like he, you know, he doesn't need other people's money to go out and run a successful campaign. He's already shown that in 2016. I'd say it's less than Biden, like far less than Biden. But hey, you never know. With, you know, like you said, politics is a dirty game, and whoever's got the biggest wallet gets their say.
So right now, you do not see yourself voting for Biden.
No, I don't. I can say that right now. I feel like if Biden was to get if Biden was to get elected, you will see a lot of civil liberties being taken away from people, specifically on gun rights.
So do you think right now you're not open then, if you're not going to vote Biden? Who else are you looking at? If not Biden, who else are you looking at?
I mean, you know, the older I get, you know, the more I'm starting to get into it, right? Like when I went through college, I obviously more than just two people running, right? So, you know, and they always say that like, don't vote for a third party because it's pretty much like wasting your vote kind of deal. But like, I'm always open. I'm like I said, I'm like with you where I'm in the middle.
Okay. When was the last time America was great?
You know, okay. So ever since like that great question has come into existence, when has America been great? I always try to think of think how would I answer that question, right? You know, what's the first the first thing that comes to my mind was like, America, why is America a great country, right? You know, we have, and the first thing that comes to mind is fireworks, barbecues, and guns, right? Like that's like everybody, right? But I like when I got the little text from you guys saying like, oh, this is what we're gonna do. I was like, all right, well let me ask myself that on a grander scale. So what I did is I thought back to a time I studied abroad going into my senior year of college. I went to Italy, I went to Ukraine, I went to France. It was a great trip. I learned a lot. And I don't know if you know anything about Ukrainian system, the Ukrainian history, but there's a revolution that took place in, I think it was like 2013, where everybody went outside to have a peaceful protest because the president of Ukraine, his name was Vladimir Yanukovych, he was pretty much a dictator. Like he literally stole from his own people, right? So what did a bunch of college kids do? And they came out to a square in the middle of Kiev, and they just sat there and just peacefully protested, right? From there, a bunch of cops and a bunch of cops started assaulting them, you know, right? And from there, the parents came down to support their kids, and then little did you know, like the whole country was swarming to this like square to protest, right? But they like, and when I went there and I saw this, they have a hill going up 100 people that died during this protest. Like it was a massacre. Like apparently there's a bank right next to the square, and people were like kind of like standing in there like trying to camp out the whole protest, and then all of a sudden like the bank catches on fire and a bunch of people die, right? And I sat there and like that made me tear up as a grown man. Grown man, you know, like I'm 6'5", you just see me start tearing up. And my professor asked me, he's like, hey, Austin, what's going on with you? I was like, man, like these people fought and died for the same, you know, for the same liberties that we as Americans sometimes take for granted. Okay, they were fighting for the freedom of speech. They thought that their president was unfit for them, and he was. He stole millions and millions of dollars. Like his house, massive. His house was estimated like over $200 million. It's crazy. He stole a lot of money from his people. You know, and like it's a crazy thought to me because I'm just sitting there. I was like, wow. Like I see the rest of my classmates, like, you know, around not really taking it all in, and they're just sitting there laughing and giggling and stuff. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, wow, like these people really fought and died just for simple liberties that we take it granted for. And like, don't get me wrong, you know, America is not perfect. You know, the United States of America is not perfect by any means, but in a grander scale, we are superior to other countries when it comes to civil liberties. So when was America great?
Yeah, when? When was America great?
Well, that's what I was getting into. I think America has been slowly progressing to now what it is now. And I think America is always going to be greater than America's always going to be up there when it comes to being great. I'm telling you that right now. Yes, we have some stuff to work on and some reforms that need to be passed because if anything, 2020 opened up a lot of people's eyes. But if
when was the last time though? That's my question. I know that we got a long way to go, but when was the last time?
That's what I say currently. Like not currently now because there's a lot of turmoil, but I'm saying like building up from when we were founded to now, like we've come a long way in the last 243 years. And we're going to keep progressing. A lot of people don't.
I mean, yeah, of course you can say that, like, again, and this is my point. You said when you think of America, you think of hot dogs, cookouts, and guns, right?
Right. No, I mean, it's just,
I'm just saying because where you come from, how you grew up. No, but I'm not attacking your thought process. That's how you visualize it. That's how you see it. I'm not how you see it is how you see it. That's how you see it. God be with you. Now, when I wake up, that's not what I see. So again, when you say that when you went to vote or whatever, you was looking for somebody that appealed to you, somebody that can help you. So of course, the Democrat Party will never appeal to you because who do they majority help? The minority. And to say that it's only 1% of the problem, but we're dealing with the same stuff that we've been dealing with for 200 years ago. Like there's still modern day slavery going on. There's still racist stuff happening every day. The prison system is still corrupt. Like our government's officials are still corrupt. We're still following a racist constitution. Like it's everything keeps going. So when you say, yeah, have we changed? Yes, we've modernized. Yeah, agriculture. Yeah, all that other stuff is great. But as far as daily life, I don't think that we've really made too much progress.
Yeah, I'll go on that point too, Slink. It's like when I think of it too, it's like you said, the way we see it is completely different than the way you might see it. Or it's like things that we got to deal with basically because of our skin color is totally different than what you have to deal with. Like you said before, you said 2020 opened a lot of people's eyes. One thing that I will say that opened a lot of people's eyes is probably things like police brutality and things of that nature. Stuff like that has been happening for 200 plus years now. So to us, for you to say like America is great now, it's like how could we don't see America as great because there are certain things that have been happening to us.
Most definitely.
Years. So it's like, have we really made progress? Because people's eyes been open in 2020, but like there's been police brutality running rampant in inner cities for as long as we can even remember. So it's like I don't see.
And if you want, I could touch into that as well.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So listen, obviously I come from a military background. I go and I do certain things that a normal person doesn't really do. Right. So seeing
service.
I think for sport. But like there's like I've always advocated for this. Going through criminal justice and national security when I was in college, but that was my major. I've always listen, there's certain things here that don't really add up. Right. There needs to be reform in policing worldwide, or well, we're just talking about America. So there needs to be a reform when it comes to how police officers carry out their day to day. My roommate and I, he's from Texas. His dad, he comes from an Army family as well. He was telling me that it's perfectly fine to have cops work. So there's community policing, right? So that's when cops are on the street and they just sit there and they make a rapport with the local community, because they live in that community too, right? I'm pretty sure in Newburgh you've definitely seen some cops just chilling, walking a beat, just enjoying their lives, right? That's community policing. But when it comes to different reform, I do believe that police academies need to be way longer. They need to have better weapons training. They need to have, and this is kind of me and my roommate were kind of with this. I saw a post where somebody was like, "Oh, cops shouldn't have to deal with domestic disputes or behavioral health issues or stuff like that, because that's outside their scope of practice." And I'm perfectly fine with that. If you have a squad car that has a normal cop that's there for emergency situations, that has a sidearm on them, yes, that's fine. But you can also have a psych or somebody that deals with behavioral health on a normal day in the car with them as well. And then if something does happen and they need medical attention, if somebody needs medical attention, you can have a medic in that squad car as well. And you can have a fourth person that is just there to watch over everybody, making sure they're doing their jobs correctly. So when it comes to policing, this all comes back to progression, right? Progression in America starts with understanding the situation, right? Police academies differ with how long their academies actually are, but I feel like they should be longer, because for instance, when all that riot stuff was going on, right? With Minneapolis and DC and all that stuff, we were actually called. We got put on standby. I packed my shit. I was ready to go. I was ready. I was I don't want to me and all my boys were talking. I was just dude, man, I'm not if somebody attacks us, I'm not down with shooting people, man. That's not what I signed up for. It's just it's just that. And we get weapons training a lot. I just came back from a range. We get weapons training 1 to 3 times a month. We go to a range and we sit there and we practice. We practice situations, and we have situational awareness at all times. Police academies.
Something real fast about the training. Can you practice life or death situations?
I mean, as a medic, I feel I practice life and death situations all the time.
No, I'm not asking you as a medic. I'm asking you as police training. Do you think you can?
So, yes, you can. So they have when I went to Marist for a semester, right? And they took us into the city of Poughkeepsie, and it's called FATS. It's Firearm Training Simulator. I think that's what it stood for. Where you go in there, you have a decommissioned Glock, and you sit there with your duty belt, and they put a projector, and it has the Glock has a laser in it, and they put on, and it's all types of sensors. It's crazy sophisticated, and they will play a scenario for you, and depending on they'll change the scenario up all the time, and depending on the situation, you have to act accordingly. So for instance, I remember when I went through, we got called for a domestic dispute, and we went down in the basement, and there's a dude beating his wife with a crowbar, and they were like, "All right, what do you do?" And then all of a sudden the guy started chasing at us with a crowbar, and I whipped out my taser. I tased him. And he goes, "Dude, solid work," because that's you're not gonna pull a Glock on a dude with a crowbar.
So I got a question. Yes, you're not supposed to pull a Glock on you with a crowbar, but I'm pretty but that's besides the point. So my thing is this. Yeah, you say you can train for life or death situations, and I'm not gonna judge against that. I'm just gonna ask you something. If you mess up in that simulator, if you mess up in that training and you kill someone, accidentally shoot somebody, you can start over, right?
I see where you're getting at. Yes, you can.
So are you really preparing for life or death? Because when you go out there, that's literally, if you do something wrong, if you die today, if you kill somebody, you don't wake up tomorrow and get to try it again.
So I feel like Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Well, that's the point of training, right? You sit there and you train for hours and hours and hours, and you say, like, listen, all right, this is what's the situation. This is how you go about it, right? Yeah, you can mess up and make mistakes in training, and you can walk away from it, and you can come back and start over, like you said. But the more and more you train, the more and more you gain that muscle memory and the situational awareness to gain, like, all right, I know what I'm doing if I see something, right? So that's why I said police reform, more training, because if they have more training in that situation, then they're like, all right, I know what I'm doing here. Maybe like instead of, instead of having that muscle memory, like, oh, reaching for my Glock real quick, you're like, all right, taser real quick. It's, it all comes down to muscle memory.
So one thing to point out is that it's definitely, as I'm pretty sure we can all agree, that it's hard to have training and then go into the real life application, because in the real life application, me and you are partners. A 12-year-old boy shoots and kills me. The next day you're back on duty, a 12-year-old boy reaches for Skittles and you shoot him dead, right?
Yeah,
so
no, that's definitely,
in real life application, it's a lot more, it's not more cut and dry where I can press the reset button. So from there, it's like, if we give so much training, we pump up as much money as we can to train officers, what is going to be the next excuse if something happens to another young black male or white woman, or, what's going to be the next excuse if we have all the training in the world? Somebody would say.
Before you answer, Oz, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, you should.
To answer you, Bari, the training, we can dump as much money, as much resources, people, all we want. But certain people, which is, you can argue against it, but if we want to bring up numbers, it shows, because that's the only reasonable explanation for it, that most these cops that are in these situations have hidden agendas. They are not for the people that they are policing. And that's why a mass majority of these incidents happen. I'm not saying all cops, because yes, life or death, again, I personally understand life or death. There's no training in the world if you think you're about to die. Because I'm not going to think I'm about to die in training. I know no matter what happens, I'm going to go home tonight. That's not that when they're out there. So if you go out there with a hidden agenda and then you're scared, it's a math problem for a disaster. Soon as you leave to go outside, because you already don't like where you at, you don't like the people you're dealing with, and you're scared. And most of these cops are scared in life or death situations. And that's why I say you can't train for this, no matter what resource you put in it, no matter how much money you put in it, because you can't start over in life. There's no start over button for us. Yes, you can keep training, but at the end of the day, like I said, if you make a mistake in training, you start over. You start over until you're certified, or they let you go because you can't get it right.
Right. Well,
go ahead. No, go ahead, because I got my
my fault. No, so like if that's the point that you guys are standing on, then if that's the point that we're trying to make, then we need to take a playbook out of a country that has very few accidental deaths happen. Like if we look at any Northern European country, this is where it comes from. They have very few accidental deaths. They have significant training. They have this is where I got that idea from, like the longer academies, because their academy is like, I think it's almost a year long. Like it's a consistent, like, listen, this is what we're doing. We don't deviate from this. This is how we operate. And they go ahead and they follow it. Like what do the squad cars look like in Newburgh? I haven't been home in a hot minute, but like, what do they look like?
White and blue.
Yeah, I was saying typical ones, unless it's the Hop Out boys.
Marlboro.
Yeah,
Marlboro cops. They have black squad cars with literally tan, like super faint tan lettering. You can't even tell. Like if you're driving at night, you can't tell it's a cop. That's when it comes in the quota, right? Like they have a quota to meet, right? That's what you're talking about, those hitting quotas. But if you look at European squad cars, what do they look like? They're all yellow and orange, and they're very accessible. You know what that's a cop car. So we take a playbook out of that. We have longer academies, we have more equipped training, like you said, life and death situations, they're kind of hard to get into it. But I mean, that's also I don't know how I feel about that, because like I can train for a life or death situation. I feel like if me and my guys went out and we deployed right now, I feel like we'll have it unlocked. Like we're so coordinated. We know what's going on at all times. If somebody gets shot, I know my job. I know what's about to happen.
One thing I will say about that, though, is that you are in the United States military, where you
have some of the best training in the world.
What you think. That's what you think, man. We're so underfunded. But that's what it comes into, that whole training aspect. If you sit there and you train and you do lanes and you're like, all right, this is what's happening at this certain time. You know, this is like I said, we have a normal cop in a car. We have like a behavioral health specialist. We have like a doc or an EMT like on standby, so in case somebody is hurt, they can treat them on the spot and then call paramedics, and then have maybe a fourth person in the car to deal with other situations. If you train as a group and you sit there and you just run lanes and constantly training, right? You will eventually get into a rhythm where you know what to do in certain situations. It's like with, you know, any type of sport, right? Like, you know, I can say me and Jabari, whenever we were on a field or a court, we knew each other's like mannerisms. We know what was gonna happen, right? Yeah. You know, Slink and Don, you guys have more more sport experience than us, right? You guys played in college, so you guys know what I'm talking about here. Like you get that rhythm, right? It's the same thing when you're working, you know, what you said, a scary job. Is like you sit there and you train with these people constantly, and you sit there like, all right, if this dude has something like a knife or a crowbar, something that's not a projectile you can fire at somebody, we're tasing them. You're like, Roger, I get you. You know, that doesn't happen. You're right. That's when it comes to reform. That's when you need to do reform.
I got enough.
No, I'm good. I can hear you. I'm just spitting out my lip. My fault. My fault.
Dude, don't worry. Jabari told us that you was a crazy guy.
Yeah. I said, this is my boy right here. We gonna be all right.
What's his name? But I have a question though. Do you think that as far as training, they're being trained to do everything to the best way they should be able to do it, or do you think they're keeping these old traditional ways that are not working no
more? Currently?
Yes, currently.
So I feel like in metropolitan areas such as, like, you know, big cities, right, they're trying to adopt these more progressive policing styles. Those more progressive policing styles are not making their way out to more rural areas. You know, like I guarantee you Highland is still practicing some policing from like 10 years ago, right? And that's with anything. Like the cities are going to get the newest and greatest, right? And then it's going to slowly trickle out. So do I think that, you know, policing is progressing? Yes, but slowly. Like it needs to progress faster. It needs to like right here, right now. This is a no shit situation. This is exactly what we're gonna do. They need to make them more apparent to the community in total. Like out of the different type of policing styles that you see, that with modern day policing, community policing is actually the biggest help. So like, for instance, have you guys seen End of Watch? You know End of Watch, or the cops in South Central? Yeah. So like, remember, like, you know, they're walking the beat, they're you know, they're in their squad car chilling. All of a sudden, like, what was he? I forget. I don't know what he was, but he came up to me and was like, "Hey man, there's gonna be some people doing a drive-by shooting, or there's some people doing this." Right? That's that rapport you build with the policing in your community. It's not necessarily like you can say all you want, that's like you're snitching on somebody, but like when cops are out there and they are visual to the public, and you can sit there and talk to them, because they're, at the end of the day, they're just normal people, right? They're you know, they just went through a more more training than a normal person. They're just normal people at the end of the day. You know, they don't. I think
more training than a normal person is Navy SEALs training. Because I've seen videos. I think that's more than the normal person.
That's where I'm going. Not Navy SEALs, but that's what I want to do.
But yeah, I think to say police train more than the normal person is disrespectful to Navy SEAL, to be honest. Because
yeah, I mean, most definitely, you can. That's what you're saying. Like a Navy SEAL is like what the creme de la creme. When it comes to tier 1 operators, Navy SEALs are it, right? Navy SEALs and CAG, all right, the Delta Force operators. Like obviously, those dudes are no joke. Those dudes top of governments, right? But like saying a normal civilian to a cop, yes, you go through a 3 to 6 month academy. You learn the shit that you learn there, and then you go and walk a beat downtown. You do get a little bit more training than a normal civilian. That's what I was trying to get at. Is it enough? No, I personally don't think it's enough. Like, so when I was going back to with the riots, right, when I was about to go, I had my stuff ready. I was literally about to go, and what do you call it? I saw videos of the National Guard for those areas that had all those riots, and like they looked like dog shit. They literally looked terrible. Like I was like, they're like, yo, man, like they look terrible. They look poorly orchestrated. They don't know what they're doing. These dudes are 19 years old. They went through basic and AIT, went to their unit, and they were like, oh yeah, by the way, we have all this stuff happening. Like I saw a video of a 19-year-old just sitting there with an empty gun, just sitting there, like literally shaking in his boots because he didn't know what to do. You know, he had no training. National Guard soldiers, they qualify with their weapons twice a year. They do. They have next to nothing weapons training. You know, when like obviously active duty, we go to the range every month to sit there and practice. But like it's the same thing. Like they have zero weapons training. That's when I saw those videos of like, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, when I see those videos of like National Guard soldiers going out there to do riot control, I'm like, those dudes don't know what the hell is going on. Like they're like, you know, he graduated high school and was like, all right, I'm gonna go in the National Guard, and he ended up here. Like he has no idea what's going on.
But
depending on what unit it is.
More things get done that I've seen historically when the National Guard gets here.
Well, yeah, obviously like there's a lot of like upsides to National Guard being activated. You know, that's when the whole history thing comes in aspect, right? Like every time that, you know, active duty has been activated to go on sovereign soil, you know, in the United States, it's bad. That's literally that's the one thing we were talking about, right? Like we were just sitting there like, dude, I don't want to go. Like, I mean, obviously we have no choice. Like we're gonna go, but like if we did go, I was telling all the people that like I'm with, and I was just like, yo, if somebody asks me a question on the street, I'm just gonna tell them like, hey man, I'm just like you. I was just told where to go, man. Like it's just like it's not that I don't believe in it. It's just that it's just like, hey, listen, like I'm just here to like make sure nobody dies.
Yeah,
y'all can peacefully protest.
I believe that's the most of the people. Is just at the end of the day, they signed up for something, and they get signed their life to the United States, and they said, we need you to go there, and that's what you do. You know, if you say no, like then you'll have repercussions, obviously, after that. But it's up to you, honestly, at the end of the day. And like you said, I'm sure a lot of people that are in the National Guard is like, I might agree with you, but my job is to stop what is going on. And I'm sure they might agree with the protests and the looting, but at the end of the day, they had to do their own job.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, like listen, I'm all for like reform. You know, like I'll stand behind the Black Lives Matter movement as long as it doesn't interfere with like as long as it doesn't like injure or hurt a specific group of people. You know, I'm all for it. I'm all for change. I'm all for progression. But as soon as like, all right, like as soon as like somebody's life is in jeopardy, I'm like, oh, wait, hold up, like you gotta chill out.
You think the
Black
Lives Matter will ever become that?
I'm a little ignorant on the subject of Black Lives. I was just using Black Lives Matter as a general, because I know they're out there wanting reform and change. But I was just like, I'm pretty ignorant on what they stand for. But I was just going for like
Would you like to know?
In general. I mean, go
That's
for it.
Another podcast episode.
No, he don't know. I'm gonna educate him. He don't know.
No, yeah, educate me.
So
go for it.
Black Lives Matter was started by, I believe, 3 young Black women, and it's to go against everything that the blacks face in daily life in America, from police brutality to systematic racism to, help me out, Barry, throw something else in there.
Everything.
Yeah, everything that like, you know, young black people have.
But not just young blacks, and that's the thing that when people say Black Lives Matter, they're trying to say that it's just for one group, but it's not. And they established that, and it's just so. I respect somebody when they say their ignorance is to a subject. Like you say, I don't know. So like this, people don't know what it means, and they try to put something to it that it's not. Like Colin Kaepernick mean. He said, well, actually,
sidebar. Colin Kaepernick got that idea from a
soldier,
Green Beret, from a Green Beret, yes.
So again, I want to ask you: do you think it was disrespectful for what he did?
No. So at first, I will say that I thought, I was just like sitting there, I was like, why? Like I was like, you know, it's just it was kind of out of the blue. I didn't really understand it. But now, you know, that I'm sitting there, I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I honestly, I don't see a problem with it. Like it's not a disrespectful thing. Like people will see that, you know, I mean, obviously people have had backlash for that. They're like, oh, it's disrespecting the flag, everything that everybody stands by. It's just a form of standing up for something that's, you know, if you feel that it's morally corrupt or just corrupt in general. But when it comes to Colin Kaepernick playing in the NFL, that's a whole nother subject. I feel like, yeah, like I don't.
We're not gonna go down that road.
Yeah.
We're not gonna go down that road. One thing I wanted to talk about is that because we were speaking on Trump today, one thing that I wanted to make sure we talk on the topic of was Trump supporters. Now we understand that you support him in your vote, but when we think of Trump supporters, the first thing that comes to mind, the biased opinions, is dip spitting, which you are, gun toting, Confederate flag, just, you know, broadcasting, disrespectful, racist, and all these things. And I thoroughly know that you aren't every last one of those biased opinions that people have and those preconceived notions when somebody says that they're Trump supporters. So I want to know, starting with you, Don, what do you think President Trump has done with his supporters to be the way that they are today? What is the things that he's done to make people act in that way, that say that because we're Trump supporters, we are this?
He's lit that fire underneath them, bro. He's gotten all those people. Like, to me, it was like America before 2016. It was like racism has always been there, but it wasn't so much like
it wasn't shown.
It wasn't shown. Like, it was a lot of closeted racists out there. Once Trump came into the picture, like out of the blue, like you see all these Confederate flags pop up, which I'm probably pretty sure they were already there, but now like this stuff is being promoted on the media. Like this is all that's being shown, and I don't understand really why it's technically associated, because like you say you support Trump, and like I don't get that impression off you. Like what Barry said, you don't come off as like have racial, like racist or anything like that. So it's like when I see like Trump, like that's the only thing that I see. So it's like, I know it's probably frustrating for you. You're a Trump supporter.
Yes, most definitely.
You're put in this group, but it's like Trump does the same exact thing to many other groups. He puts other groups in this box, like how people might put you in a box when they say you're a Trump supporter. So they're like, oh, you're a racist. When it's like, it might not be the case. So it's like, it's just that dynamic that's just crazy that we see people putting Trump supporters in this box that they're all racist when they might not all be racist, and they're like, just black people that are Trump supporters. This is a whole different type of demographic that are Trump supporters. But it's like Trump does it, like literally he's done it to when it comes to immigration with the wall, like when he calls like immigrants like from Mexico, like when he labels them as criminals and like savages and stuff, like he does certain things, like, and he says certain things that's, to me, is like dehumanizing. And it's like, type of stuff has really incited these like white supremacists, these KKK, these like far whatever, like it's really incited all these people. So it's just like a really crazy dynamic, like Barry was saying.
And that's one thing that I wanted to point out too, is that because they're labeled the Trump supporter, not all are created equal. So even though they may have voted, they're not all thinking the same thing, and they might not all be closeted racists. And that's one thing that we should always remember, because the podcast here is to have us bring point of views. And for this young man to say that he is a Trump supporter, he may not support every single aspect
before you go,
that we think is on that list.
Yeah.
Before you go, Oz, I just want to say, I know you wasn't a racist or whatever, but I learned that all Trump supporters weren't racist when my aunt voted. Like, I have a black aunt that voted for Donald Trump, and that really showed me that some people just really believe in what people say. It is what it is.
At the end of the day, like you said, it is what it is. Well, and that's why I thanked you guys for having me on here, because like you said, you have this preconceived notion that like, oh, you voted for Trump, that means you do not like minorities, and that's couldn't be farther from the truth. Like, I talk about Jabari all the time. Like, Jabari is like literally the brother I never had. Like, he really is. I talk to people. I tell him about him all the time. He really is. So that's why I thank you guys for having me on the show. To try to, like, work out the kinks. Don referenced a lot of good points. I'm trying to think back to what he said, because I had a lot. I was thinking about what he was talking about. So when Donald Trump got on the podium, he said that Don said that he had all these closet racists come out and, like, speak their mind. Like, now we can be free to say what we want. That, my friends, is called the just like the loud majority, right? So you have a group of people, and you're gonna have this on both the left side and the right side of the aisle, right? You're gonna have the people that come out of the woodwork that are just extreme left or extreme right there, come out and start, using their they're gonna use their position to try to influence everybody else, or try to get their position across, and that couldn't be farther from wrong. Like, let's like the far right, like the what do you call it, the tiki torch people, KKK members, right?
The Nazi tiki torch burning, American flag burning, Confederate toting. The list can go on, but I don't want to continue.
Yeah. So, so that they, like, I look at that as disrespectful to me as well, because my unit and everything that I do, we defeated the Nazis back in 1944. My unit jumped into France, and we did, and, like, this, where I'm at right now is like where the birth of the birthplace of, like, airborne. You have people that fought and died to get rid of the Nazi regime. So when I see the loud majority of people sitting there with their Confederate flags, and they're protesting for the fascist views, that's like, I look at that and I'm like, why? Like, you're just literally giving it a bad name. That's literally all it is. Most of America that voted for Trump are in that silent minority, or I'm gonna say it, that the people that are, like, the Nazis with the Confederate flags, they're the loud minority. They speak their mind, and they're just louder than everybody else, right? You get that on both sides of the aisle, right? The person that's the loudest it speaks they get their point across, and everybody's like, oh, is this really how you feel? No, that's not it at all. The rest of America that voted for Trump, they're in that silent majority. We don't believe in all that stuff. We just, we voted for a man that thinks that we thought that he could make some type of difference in our normal day-to-day lives.
You said thought. You said thought, dear. So
I said thought. Well, no, I'm thinking 2016, like, thought, like, oh, we think that he can do this. Like, I mean, thought. Yeah.
One thing that I would be remiss is if I didn't mention that, as a Black individual, somebody who has voted for a man who has done things to constructively bring my people down, who are the minority in the situation, it can never do us any good when he is in that place. Because one thing that you got to understand is that I think America myself is just the greatest nation in the world. I'm from here, you know what I'm saying? So when you are the president of the United States of America, that is the greatest title that you could probably hold. The highest rank in all the land, right?
That's the greatest title in the world.
So when we have somebody that is at that rank, that has so much power, right, quote unquote power, to have those point of views, to have that speaking tone, to speak so disrespectfully at certain times, is just unbelievable sometimes, and I cannot even fathom how myself and other Americans can literally agree with that at all, because that does no construction for me as a Black person, me as just an American individual. It's just as a person that lives in this nation. I don't understand how that person that sits at the top of this food chain can have those point of views about his own countrymen, essentially. So I just would be remiss to say that if people that can support that, it doesn't do us any good as me being a Black individual or somebody who is putting in a whole construct to break us down.
And before you go, like what Barry asked Don, I personally think Trump caused more division. Like Don said, before he got in office, no, we weren't away from racist, but it just wasn't happening on like as rapid as it happened in these last 4 years. Like, yeah, we wasn't seeing it that way. And some can argue, no, maybe that wasn't Trump. Some will argue that it is because of Trump. I personally think that he doesn't do enough for the racial division, and I do personally think that he attacks it, because when you go on live television, you say something like, "Why are we saying Black Lives Matter? Why are we saying that all lives matter?" When everybody is telling you the whole point is not about Black Lives Matter. It's just about you need to save people that are being killed right now. It's the Black people. I seen a meme that was saying, "My house is on fire." Oh yeah, but what about my house? Your house is not on fire. Like right now, we need the help. So again, when you go to vote, everybody comes from different backgrounds. So everybody, like you said, everybody sees the country different. Everybody is looking for something different. This country has been dealing with racial time since the beginning of times. It is crazy that we can fix everything else around us, but we still got to drag through the racist moments and the racial division. And then we say things as, yeah, but it's all right. They're there. It's all right. They can say that because they're the loudest in the room. They're the loudest majority. But that doesn't make it what we saying that this country is built on. So therefore, it's like, how do you endorse somebody that is basically breaking down what this country was supposed to have stopped?
So you mentioned something before where he would have, like, we were talking about the minority groups, the LGBTQ, and I was like, yeah, if he would come out and just be like, listen, I advocate for these people, whatever. But then you said, like, oh, how do we know it's from the heart? And we know it's not for votes.
Yeah,
right?
literally.
That's literally all politics is. It's once you get elected, it's how do I stay in office, right? You know, the Dems have been doing that for literally decades. You know, you see Democratic, House or you see Senate members that have been on the Senate for decades, right? It's all about how you stay in that the spot of power. If Trump goes out and he goes, listen, I hear, like, if Trump goes out and he goes, listen, I hear the movement, we're going to, we're going to, advocate for reform and do the things that I talked about previously. I feel that would be a solid move. And you can say all you want how, like, oh, it's not from the heart, it's just for votes. But at the end of the day, it's still gonna get reform. It's still gonna get progression. It may not be
have a president that even stands on both sides, or do you think we're always going to have a president that is going to be one-sided? Because we have
far left and far right.
Yeah, we have. As far as I can remember, like I said, I haven't been on this earth long enough, but as far as I can remember, we haven't had a president that is for both sides, the minority and the majority. We haven't it's either or. And going into office, president after president after president after president, and keeping that racial divide there, and knowing that this country was built on racial tension, that right there tells me that all the training in the world, all the money in the world could never fix the problem, because it starts at the top.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So it all goes back to, like you said, people are raised different, right? So I'm gonna talk about police reform. So if you look at cops, who was the cop that killed George Floyd? I forget his name.
David something, right?
It doesn't fucking matter. He's a scumbag, right? Like he
Calvin,
you said it.
Calvin.
Yeah, he's a scumbag. He grew up different, right? He grew up and he had that preconceived notion that like he's gonna do certain things, right? And that what ended up happening, a black man was killed over a false $20 bill, right? It didn't need to happen. I like literally watching the video, like from a medical aspect, I saw what he was doing. Like I saw he was there's a way you can choke somebody out, but not cutting off the windpipe. Like it's your vagus nerve. Like you're cutting off the venous blood flow coming up to your head, and you start passing out, but you can still breathe, and like that eventually can kill somebody. I was watching the video. I was like, yeah, no, no wonder why he fucking died. Like I knew exactly what he was doing. So I don't think like you're saying that like systematic racism starts at the top, right? I feel like it's not all right, you can say you want the Trump's racist, but it doesn't need to start at the top. All it takes is one bad person to eliminate years of progression, right? It only takes one person that had a preconceived notion, like that preconceived idea that like, hey, listen, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna for all intents and purposes, I'm gonna go out and fucking ruffle up some kids in the street, right? Or I'm gonna go and do this, right? It's all that mindset, and I firmly believe this because in every organization, in every bad organization I've ever been part of, you always had a couple of bad instructors or bad teachers or bad, just people in general. But as soon as they leave, the people that notice that what they were doing was wrong, and they grow up and they take those positions and they start progressing with it. So what I'm trying to say is that like we're not going to see progression, when it comes to systematic racism, until the previous generation has either changed their ideas or they die out.
God,
it's either they change, it's either they change or die. I didn't want to come out so violent. Yeah, I didn't want to come out.
It's not violent. It's the truth, and it's not. I'm somebody that's realistic. It's now or never. So I was taught this. I heard this the other day on Netflix. Laws were put in motion to change a man's mind, not his heart.
That's fair.
So if I'm racist, all laws is doing is stopping me from killing you because I can't legally kill you. So I have to just deal with you unless I don't care about you enough that I will kill you. So with cops, they know they have a silent code and a code of honor. They know when they go out there, when they do certain things, no matter what happens, they're never going to get, most from what we have seen up until this point, hopefully it changes. They don't get the full punishment at all. They don't get it. Right. They're out living normal lives. So stuff like that, it's just like, it's a system within itself in the police force. It's a system within itself in the government. So what changed? Like, you have these people running this country that has been in power for so long, their family members so long. And like you said, it's a generation of racists. Not all of them. Not all of them. But enough to be in power to run everything. So again, not being harsh, I don't think that nothing's going to change until all the races die off. Like, I think that's the answer.
That's honestly, so yeah, like with every generation you get different ideals of bringing up, right? So if you take my family for example, right? My grandfather, great man. He served as a Pennsylvania State Police for so many years. He ended up retiring. He used to beat my mom. Like when she was a kid, he used to beat the hell out of my mom. It was a different age. It was the 60s, it was a fucking different time. But when, she had a kid, she had me, she realized, all right, this is where he had mistakes, and I'm going to change how I'm going to raise my son. And here I am today, right? So if you take that whole example and you move it to a generation, like, all right, listen, like, if there's a boomer generation, whatever generation is after that, right? And then millennials and Gen Z, right? if like as a generation, we need to say like, hey, listen, all right, all this racist shit, we got to leave that in the past because it's not benefiting anybody. Like, it's not benefiting the people that are, experiencing racism, and it's not benefiting people, like me, who are just like caught in the middle between, the extremists, right?
But
like,
the people that have the power are benefiting. So that's why it will not change.
Oh, you can make that point, yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Of course, to us, we want it to change. Of course, to you, somebody that is not for none of the racist stuff wants it to change. But we're not the ones in power.
Mm-hmm. Well, that comes into, the whole voting aspect. I feel like I watch one of you guys' podcast, and you're like, you need to go out and vote. You need to be able to like vote for the local elections, because eventually it trickles up to the big gov. So
thank you for paying attention. Thank you. That makes me feel.
I do actually agree with you, Austin, on that also as well. Is that it does.
I do my homework. I'm sorry. What did you say, Barry?
I was saying that I also agree with you because it does start at the bottom as well as the top. If your parents are racism, it's going to be passed down to you. So, once it gets to you, it's up to you to make the decision not to be a racist, essentially.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, but not everybody can make choices. It's not 1, 2, 3 for everybody. If I grow up seeing nothing but hateful things to one direct race, and most of the times these people, they don't see black people until they get double digits, until they get 20s, until they they have never communicated. Yeah, until you're in college and you're interacting with them, and all you heard about these type of people were negative remarks. Right. So you're going to avoid them, or when you go into conversation with them, it's biased. Like, you're not giving them an opportunity. So that's why I'm saying it's not the bottom. You can blame somebody, but you can't blame a kid. The mind is so crazy to manipulate, and everybody knows that. If I'm a kid and my parents that I look up to is telling me these people are no good, who am I to go against my mom and dad?
Exactly why it's the bottom.
What do you mean, why is it the bottom?
I said that's exactly why it is the bottom. If all you know is your kids is mom and dad, who else are you supposed to learn from? That's the bottom. That's my baseline. That's my benchmark.
You're saying, like, it's the top two, because the top are the people, they're putting these people in position. They're employing
exactly.
Them. So, like, when you employ people, like, say, we talk about, like, police reform and stuff, like, in order for that to be fixed, in my opinion, like, it goes to, like, who they're actually hiring. Like, bro, you could train somebody as much as you want, but like Slink says, some of these people that are being thrown into neighborhoods, like a neighborhood like Newburgh, like, for their whole life, they only hear bad stuff about everybody in Newburgh. So, like, you hiring somebody, you're giving somebody a gun, you're giving them this level of authority, and you're putting them in this environment that they've never seen. They've never seen it. The only thing that they have to go off of it is their bias that they probably learned from the past. Like you said, Austin, like, we gotta pretty much put, like, they have to be able to separate it, but like that's not being done. And like that's why I was simply saying it starts at the top, because the top, they're the ones employing these people. In order for police reform to even be fixed, in my opinion, like, it goes to like who they're actually hiring. Because like, you could train somebody as much as you want. Those unconscious biases, like, they're always gonna be there. And if you're sending somebody into an environment like I said, like the city of Newburgh, like, their first thought isn't to grab their taser. Like, I don't care what you, I don't care how much, like, they might do that in training because like that's the right thing to do in training, but you can only train so much for the real thing. The only way you really know how the real thing is until you're actually immersed into that situation. So my thing is, like, when you're employing these people that have never really seen these communities, have never really been in these communities, have never really spoke to these people inside these communities, like, how could you even expect them to police these communities correctly?
And I got you too, also. I'm sorry. As far as like Don saying with the training, and like I said, with the people that have these hidden agendas, all of us have played a sport, all right? Can we all agree practice is nothing like the game?
Yeah.
I can put 1,000 shots up. I can play 5-on-5 with my teammates until I'm bleeding. It will never be the same when I get in the game. You can hand Barry the ball off 100 times. When you get in the game, it will never be like the previous 100 times. So no matter how much training, no matter how much practice I'm getting, you cannot practice and train for real life situations because you do not know what's going to happen on the other side. You don't.
Right.
You don't know what's coming.
Yeah, so I have a point. So, and I'm biased, right? This is literally the military is my life at this point, right? Like literally everything I do, right? So, and I'll say this with gusto, right? I'll say this, and there's going to be a lot of points that go against this, but I'm going to say it.
Don't worry.
Yeah, so I'm going to say right now that you won't find that racism. You won't find racism in the military, and I know that's a very far out belief because they're like, oh, like military just got a bunch of corn-fed people that just come from the middle of nowhere, and now they're serving. But at the same time, when you are in that life or death, or you are training, you literally have to rely on the person next to you to do their job. I have come across people of all walks of life. Like I have been fortunate all my life to like go to different programs and be and meet and talk to different people from different cultures and different backgrounds. But like when we go somewhere, like I have to rely on that person. So you're not gonna find that you're not gonna find that racist aspect to it. If we're all in a close knit like area like we are at all times, like we're all just gonna bond together. So that comes with the whole training aspect, right? What I was saying, if you take a longer police academy and you put a bunch of people together from a bunch of different backgrounds and you make them go through a year-long academy, they're gonna sit there and day in and day out, that's their life for a year, right? You're gonna sit there like, all right, like I'm gonna bond with these people, and you're gonna learn you're gonna learn a lot about different cultures, backgrounds, and practices that different people come from all walks of life. So you're gonna sit there and you're gonna like pretty much get in this whole brotherhood like
of our servicemen that go over to these foreign areas and fight. So when you go to another country, or your brothers, I'm pretty sure that's what you call each other, right? Your brothers?
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah, so you know who's the enemy when you get there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, y'all can point them out who didn't come with you guys. You guys know who my brothers is, and like, right? Well, at least most of the time. I don't want to say all the time, but most of the time you guys know right away, like, all right, this guy right here, we need to watch.
Oh, this guy's shooting at me? Yeah, he's trying to kill me.
Yeah, so my thing is this. Do you think that police training is going into it with the same idea, like the people that in our community are against us?
So when I say training, right? So I think policing, like you said, right? Policing is very hard because like, you're going into your own community and trying to solve problems within the community, and you don't know who's bad. You don't know what's going on. You have to gather information on the fly. It's all about situational awareness, right? But I feel with proper training, because like that's the thing that separates people that walk a beat and are in a precinct in the military. Like you said, like we more or less know what's happening. We're all wearing uniforms. We get it. But like that's why I feel like police reform needs to practice more so they understand situational awareness, and they're like, all right, listen, like we know this amount of information. This information was given to us. We need to collect more information, and we need to make our decision from that. So that's why when I say more training, that extra time that I discussed, I was like, listen, like they need to. Their job is essentially harder than mine. I know my job, right? My job is really like a caveman can do my job. Okay. Their job is harder than mine. They need to have more training than me. It doesn't make sense for somebody that has to literally put on a uniform every day and have a Glock on them to go into their own community and in a 4-month academy, and they don't know what's going on. All right. That's why when I say more training, they get familiarized with dealing with certain situations, and they're able to identify certain things that are wrong that in a current situation. So that's what I mean when they have more training, because like they literally have to go and like point out, like if everybody's in plain clothes and everybody blends in, their job is harder. They have to be able to find and like, all right, this guy's bad, right? That's where more training comes into play. off the top of the dome, I can't think of a training program. You know, that's out of my scope of practice. That would help with that. But you know, that comes into investigating and doing all the stuff the cops do.
They did sign up for that though.
No, 100%. Like I'm not saying that like all their job's hard, so they shouldn't do it. I'm saying that like their job is harder, so why not give them the necessary tools for them to succeed in a given situation?
Yeah, I see your point.
Yeah, like my thing is like go back to what I said. Like it's to me like everybody that like Newburgh is a perfect example. Like you're saying like their community, but like most of the people that are in those uniforms, like that's not their community. They don't even see that as their community. So to even go back to what I was saying before, like there's no amount of training that could prepare for somebody that has had these views on that specific community. Newburgh is a perfect example. There's no amount of training that's gonna fix that. Somebody that's had this view about people in Newburgh for 20 years or their entire life, like there's no amount of training that's gonna do that. That's why, to me, like you gotta pretty much just scrap the whole thing and just build it back up from the ground. So that's why I like what both of y'all like. You saying like Sling is saying this from the top, and Bar is saying this from the bottom. Like it's both. It's really both.
I was just saying. Go ahead, Austin.
Yeah, what happened?
You were saying?
So when I hear like people saying, all right, you got to defund the police, right? You got to like, you know, scrap it from the bottom, as Don said. If you want to, like, it's going to take a while. If you scrap a whole police precinct and like, listen, we're going to build it from the ground up, perfect, or try to get perfect, that's going to take a long time. You're walking into like a 5 to 10 year program at that point. Like you have to retrain everybody, and like, is it necessary? It might be, but also at the same time, a lot of other things like, and we'll use Newburgh as an example. A lot of things will go wrong in Newburgh. Like if you have to start from the bottom, and you know during that regrowing pain, like it's like in football. Like if somebody has a terrible season and then they just like they draft a bunch of new rookies, and all of a sudden they oh, we're gonna go all the way. They go 4-12, right? Like you're gonna go through some growing pains, and it's gonna be very hard on a community that you swear to protect, right? And it's just gonna be, I say it's borderline detrimental at that point. So when I don't think that the correct answer would be scrapping a police precinct entirely. I say at that point you look at your human resources, and you look at complaints that have been filed against certain cops, and then you can make cuts at that point and be like, hey, listen, you've been getting a lot of complaints saying that you're a little rough or this and that. You can put them on like hey, listen, this is a warning. You got to chill it out. You got to do your job and go home, right? And if you don't want to do that, we'll find somebody else that will fill that void, that job void, you know? So I feel like that's when human resources comes into play. Like you got to be able to like sit down with every cop in that precinct, be like, listen, this is what you like in the Army, right? We have counselings, right? Like every month we have a counseling that says like, oh, this is what you did good, this is what you did bad, this is what you need to improve on, right? So I feel like the same aspect needs to be incorporated into police precincts, because you know, if somebody doesn't know where they're messing up, they're not going to improve. You know, if somebody's being rough with the community, if somebody's like I don't know, fucking like being rough with kids on the street, or down by the basketball courts, they're being overly powerful. If nobody higher checks them on that, they're going to keep doing it. So you need to have better better checks from the higher ups in the police precinct. So they need to be able to sit.
No police and police. I think that'll be where we see some change.
No police. What would you say that one more time?
No policing police.
So no checks on them?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
I'm sorry.
I don't think that me and Don should be running the country, and when Don does something wrong, I be the guy to check Don. I don't think that I will be biased to that. So I'm not gonna want to see Don lose his position. Yeah, I'm gonna probably tell Don you shouldn't do that, but I'm not really gonna want to Don lose position, lose his job, and be without a job and have to go home to a family like that. So
yeah, no, most definitely, everybody feels that.
So but that's like what I'm saying. I
don't
think
research is different.
Yeah, which there, like you said, human resources is different, but a lot of times, if you follow these track records, these cops have complaints. And so a lot, like the guy who killed George Floyd, he had complaints. He had shot somebody prior.
Right, I heard that.
So I hear you on human resources, but that falls back to who's empowered here. Who's watching over that area? Who does he know in that police academy, that police department, FBI? Because as I get older, I'm starting to see all these things is connected somehow. These people in these offices know these people in these police stations. They know these government officials. This judge knows that judge. So that's what I'm learning.
All about networking.
Exactly. That's what I'm learning as I get older. So when you say yes, we need somebody to check them, I just don't think we need them checking themselves.
Okay, so what do you have another type of like agency like run over?
Put money to another agency that goes into all they do is complaints on police officers. They don't got to worry about nothing else. They don't got to go worry about this department. No, all you need to worry about is he got a complaint. What happened? Follow the whole story. If you have to, take it down, get the witnesses, go through the whole thing. You telling me that, hey, you got a call today, a kid, you roughing up kids, man. What are you doing? Whatever happens in this conversation, when I walk out of your office, I'm probably just going to go home.
Well, that's so. Yeah, it would be nice to have another interagency that comes in and does like private investigations on cops. I'm pretty sure there is something similar to that. And obviously, if there is, it needs to be better. But like, if like I don't know the ranking structure within police precincts, but if a senior goes to a junior cop and goes, hey, listen, this is what happened. Like you need to change. That you might start to see change, but like you said, there's always going to be a bias, and there's going to be like, hey man, I heard this happen, just don't do that, and they're going to go out and do it again. I hear that. That's when somebody else needs to step in, like you said, another agency that comes in and does looks at all those complaints. That all comes back to police reform, which I made that point before that I'm 100% for.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Barry.
I was going to say, it's our final moment, sir. I just want to say thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, awesome.
This podcast is really meant for this purpose right here, is to have these open conversations about few individuals that think differently. First episode where me and somebody else on this podcast disagreed. Mostly we agreed. This time around we disagreed. So I just want to say thank you for coming on. As always, learning is a change in behavior. You know very well. Keep continuing.
Mass Arm Bailey.
Keep continuing to be great. I appreciate you, friend. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I love all y'all.
Being a friend.
Like, y'all are my brothers.
Yeah.
If you guys ever have another podcast where you guys need me to come on, I'm more than welcome to.
You're more than welcome to come back.
Hey, I appreciate y'all.
We might actually have somebody come on that combats most of your point of views that are like an anti-Trump supporter. We might actually have that. So we might take you up on that offer.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Like I said in the beginning, I feel like what you guys are doing is a great idea. I actually thought about something similar to this. But yeah, obviously I don't have time for that. I think what you guys are doing is, you guys are taking both sides of the aisle or, different opinions on different things and bringing them together. So there's a clear understanding, and that's what this country lacks, is clear understanding with points. So like I said, kudos to you guys. And like I said, if you guys need anything else, I'm all ears.
Hey, and I just want to say outside of thank you coming here. Thank you for everything you do, sir.
Of course. Thank you. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you guys. Take it easy.